Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open one of the coldest cold cases ever, investigating one of the greatest murder mysteries of all time. And believe me, what we're about to uncover might just flip everything you thought you knew about who really killed the dinosaurs on its head.
You know the story, right? For decades, it's been super simple and pretty convincing. An ever-sized asteroid hits the Earth, wiping out the dinosaurs. Boom. Case closed. But what if it's not that simple? What if the asteroid wasn't the real killer at all, but just the fall guy? The one who showed up late and got pinned with the crime.
In this prehistoric whodunit, let's line up our suspects. Okay, so suspect number one, the one we all know, the killer from outer space. Swift, brutal, gets the job done. But then there's suspect number two, and this one's way more sinister. An ancient nightmare bubbling up from inside the Earth itself, a slow, torturous poisoning that started its attack long before that asteroid was even a blip on the radar.
All right, to solve any mystery, you've got to go back to the scene of the crime. So let's do it. Let's travel back 66 million years and see what Earth looked like in the last days of the Cretaceous period. Now picture this. This was no barren rock. It was a world that was absolutely teeming with life. It was one of the hottest, most humid periods in history, and lush jungles literally stretched from pole to pole. You had pterosaurs ruling the skies, these massive, incredible marine lizards dominating the oceans, and on land, well, the dinosaurs were the undisputed kings. They had been for over 150 million years. Talk about a stable kingdom.
And then, poof, in what feels like a geologic heartbeat, they were gone. But here's the question we're asking today. What if it wasn't an instant hit? What if the world they were living in was already sick, already dying, long before that final knockout punch from space?
Okay, so let's start building the case against suspect number two. This ancient monster that launched its attack not from the stars, but from deep within our own planet.
Our story starts on this huge landmass that would eventually become India. And deep underground, something was stirring. A massive volcanic region called the Deccan Traps, and it was about to wake up in the most dramatic, world-ending way imaginable.
Now this wasn't your typical volcano blowing its top. Oh no, this was a slow, agonizing, burning catastrophe. It all started quietly, about 800,000 years before the asteroid even showed up, with the traps just breathing out poison gas. Then 300,000 years before impact, it started vomiting up these huge floods of lava, poisoning everything in ancient India. By 150,000 years out, the whole planet starts to feel it. Global warming kicks in. But the real apocalypse, the true nightmare, that starts 50,000 years before the end.
So the first thing the rest of the world felt was the heat. The oceans warmed up by at least 2 degrees Celsius. Now I know what you're thinking. 2 degrees? That's it? But for the planet's oceans, that is a raging fever. It pushes entire ecosystems right to the edge, to their absolute breaking point.
But then it gets even worse. It's like a cruel joke. See, the mix of volcanic gases was just chaotic. Some gases trapped heat, warming things up, but others actually blocked out the sun, cooling things down. So right after this intense warming period, the climate just slams violently in the other direction, back toward the cold. Imagine being any living creature trying to adapt to that. It was a deadly temperature whiplash.
And while all this climate chaos is happening, the entire planet is just being poisoned. Systematically. You've got sulfur in the atmosphere creating acid rain. You've got CO2 dissolving in the oceans, making them acidic, which starts killing off plankton. And plankton, that's the absolute bottom of the entire marine food chain. Once that goes, everything above it just starts to crumble. The whole global food web was falling apart.
Okay, but then we get to the main event, the grand finale. About 50,000 years before that space rock hits, the Deccan Traps just go into overdrive. This is when the slow burn becomes a raging apocalyptic inferno. This is when the monster truly roared.
The scale of this is it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. The Deccan Traps started spewing out tens of trillions of tons of magma. This wasn't just an eruption, it was a full-blown lava Armageddon. We're talking massive wildfires, constant earthquakes, tsunamis that could shake continents.
All that heat pouring out from inside the Earth might have created something straight out of a disaster movie. Hypercanes. We're talking storms with winds hitting 1,000 kilometers per hour. That is 3 times stronger than the worst hurricane we've ever recorded. Storms so powerful they could literally punch holes in the ozone layer. So here's the key takeaway, the most important point of all this. By the time that asteroid finally shows up, the world was already a wreck. It was a poisoned, collapsing world. The dinosaurs were living on a planet that was actively trying to kill them. They weren't these majestic rulers anymore. They were just the last survivors, clinging on in a kingdom that was already in ruins.
And then, as if this whole thing wasn't bad enough, on the complete other side of this dying world, a little dot of light appears in the sky, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The accomplice had arrived.
The power of this final hit is just mind-boggling. An asteroid, 10 kilometers wide, slams into the Earth with the force of 4 billion atomic bombs, all going off at once. It just vaporized rock, it vaporized water, and it threw this superheated cloud of dust and debris into the atmosphere that blocked out the sun, plunging the entire world into a dark, freezing impact winter.
But remember, the world that it hit was not that vibrant paradise we talked about at the beginning. It was a victim that was already on its knees, already weakened by hundreds of thousands of years of poison and climate chaos. The asteroid, it wasn't a lone assassin. It was the brutal, knockout punch to a world that was already down for the count.
Okay, we've laid out all the evidence, we've visited the crime scene, now it's time for the verdict.
So, who did it? Who was the real murderer? Was it the slow, sneaky monster from inside the Earth, the Deccan traps that poisoned the world for millennia? Or was it the fast, brutal killer from space?
Well, scientists are still hashing out the exact details, but more and more, the evidence is pointing to a chilling conclusion. It wasn't one or the other. It was a team effort. You could say the Deccan traps were the masterminds. They did the long, dirty work, weakening the planet, poisoning the ecosystems, setting the perfect stage for a murder. The asteroid, well, it was the accomplice, the hired muscle that came in to finish the job.
But wait, the story doesn't end there. And honestly, this is where it gets really, really chilling. Because that monster from deep inside the Earth, it's not a one-hit wonder. It's a serial killer. When we look back through Earth's deep history, a terrifying pattern starts to show up. The absolute worst extinction event in history, the Great Dying, it wiped out something like 95% of all life. And guess what caused it? A nearly identical massive volcanic event up in Siberia. And it's not just that one. At least 4 of the 5 biggest mass extinctions in our planet's history line up perfectly with these hellish mega eruptions.
So what does this all mean in the end? It means the real story here might not be about some random, unlucky shot from space. It's about a serial killer hiding right under our feet. A monster inside our own planet that has repeatedly, violently reshaped the course of life on Earth. And for now, is just sleeping.